When a U.S. Senator has to ask the FBI Director, "You're just not going to follow the law?" Something is deeply broken. What happened in that hearing wasn't just political theater. It was a moment that revealed how fragile accountability has become inside America's most powerful law enforcement agency.
Well, we're privileged to have the ranking member, the vice chair of the full committee with us today. Senator Murray, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Chair Moran. It's good to work with you and Ranking Member Van Hollen in this new position, so look forward to both of you and the work on this committee. You know, the FBI does really crucial work to keep our nation safe, whether it's stopping criminal organizations or domestic terrorists, protects our nation's secrets, it prevents cyber attacks, keeps our children safe from harm, and a lot more. So this is really sober work with extremely high stakes. And I'm concerned that instead of focusing on the incredibly important mandate to keep Americans safe and to help impartially enforce our laws under your leadership, Director Patel, the FBI has been weaponized to go after Americans who disagree with the president. FBI resources have been diverted away from combating terrorism to focusing on immigration requests. And all of this, the diverted missions, the fewer resources, fewer agents, heightened politicization, is happening now under your watch, and it is, I believe, making Americans less safe. Now, let me just start with the budget. As Ranking Member Van Hollen noted earlier, this hearing is being held without the FBI's fiscal year 2025 spend plan and a full budget request for fiscal year 2026. The spend plan is required by law. It was due to Congress over a week ago. We have not yet seen it. That is really absurd. The FBI is our nation's leading law enforcement agency, a budget of $10.7 billion. It is critical that we understand how you are spending taxpayer dollars. So, Director Patel, when should we expect this FY25 spend plan for the FBI? Have you seen it? Have you reviewed it? When will we get it?
I'll get you an answer, ma'am. I don't have a timeline on that.
It was due last week by law.
I understand.
And your answer is you just understand. You're not going to follow the law?
My answer is that I am following the law, and I'm working with my interagency partners to do this and get you the budget that you are required to have.
And you have no timeline?
No.
Well, we also need a full budget request, not a single paragraph full of wild talking points that we saw with the skinny budget proposal. We're now having a budget hearing without a budget request. So, Director Patel, where is the FY 2026 budget request for the FBI?
It's being worked on, ma'am.
Have you reviewed it? Have you approved it?
Not yet.
When will we get it?
As soon as I can get it from my interagency partners and get it approved.
6 months from now?
I don't know, ma'am. I'm not going to
Well,
make up
how
a
do
timeline.
we as Congress do our budget and our work without that request and without the spend plan?
Well, ma'am, I'm here. I'm
don't
doing the
care.
best I can. I can't make up answers. I'm going to commit to you to work on getting you the information you need.
That is insufficient and deeply disturbing. No response?
I've given.
What you just watched wasn't just an oversight hearing, it was a collision between accountability and impunity. When Senator Patty Murray asked FBI Director Kash Patel why the Bureau had failed to submit its legally required budget, and his response was essentially no timeline, that moment cut right through the polished surface of Washington's bureaucracy. It exposed how normalized lawlessness has become at the highest levels of government. Let's slow this down, because this is not just about one budget or one director. What we saw was an elected official, representing the people, asking the head of the nation's top law enforcement agency to comply with the very laws that give his agency legitimacy. And instead of a commitment to uphold those laws, she got indifference. That's not mismanagement, that's defiance, subtle, bureaucratic defiance cloaked in polite language. Now think about what that means in context. The FBI, more than any other domestic institution, symbolizes authority. It has the power to investigate, to surveil, to indict, to decide who gets the benefit of the doubt and who doesn't. For decades, it has asked the public to trust that this power will always be used in service of justice. But trust without transparency is just blind faith, and blind faith in power is dangerous. When the director shrugs off a legal obligation to report how taxpayer money is spent, he's not just failing to deliver paperwork, he's breaking the social contract. The American people are supposed to know where their money goes, especially when it funds agencies that operate in secrecy. And Murray, in that moment, represented that very principle, the right of citizens to demand explanation from those who wield authority in their name. But her question, "You're just not going to follow the law?" echoes far beyond that committee room, because it speaks to a larger pattern we've been seeing across multiple institutions, this quiet corrosion of accountability, the slow but deliberate normalization of saying, "We'll get to it," or "We're working on it," instead of "We'll comply." That's how democratic erosion looks in the real world, not through coups or collapses, but through casual dismissals of obligation, through officials who no longer feel urgency to answer to anyone. And the danger here isn't just procedural, it's cultural. When the culture of power becomes comfortable with opacity, when leaders stop feeling shame for breaking rules, the entire system begins to drift toward authoritarian habits. Because once transparency is lost, accountability becomes optional. And once accountability becomes optional, justice becomes selective. You can see why Murray looked genuinely stunned. It wasn't simply disbelief, it was recognition. Recognition that something fundamental had shifted, that the architecture of oversight, the balance that's supposed to keep government honest, is weakening. It's also worth asking, how did we get here? This didn't start with Patel. For years, agencies across administrations have learned they can stall, stonewall, and delay, and there's rarely any consequence. Congress will scold, the media will report, and the news cycle will move on. Meanwhile, the machinery of secrecy grinds on, untouched. The longer that cycle continues, the more invisible the government becomes to the people it governs. And that's exactly why this exchange matters. It's not about a late report. It's about whether we still live in a system where power answers to law, or whether we've drifted into a system where law answers to power. Because when a law enforcement leader can disregard the law with no fear of consequence, the word law itself begins to lose meaning. There's also a human layer to this, a moral layer. Murray's tone wasn't angry, it was weary. That kind of frustration comes from years of watching institutions that once embodied integrity become unrecognizable. It's the fatigue of someone who still believes in democracy trying to reason with someone who stopped pretending to. And maybe that's the hardest truth here. We are watching the culture of accountability fade in real time. It's not vanishing through violence or revolution, it's being hollowed out by indifference, by procedural excuses, by officials who know that the system protects them more than it disciplines them. Moments like this should remind us that democracy isn't self-sustaining. It has to be maintained through transparency, through truth, through tension between power and oversight. That's what Murray was fighting for in that exchange, even if it seemed like a small thing. Because it's in those small things that the health of a democracy is revealed. So when a senator asks the director of the FBI whether he plans to follow the law, she's not just asking about a budget. She's asking whether the rule of law still applies equally to everyone, or if it now bends quietly around those with power. And that's the real takeaway. Democracy doesn't end when someone breaks the law, it ends when no one feels bound by it. If you found this breakdown valuable, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who cares about government accountability, and subscribe to Left Lens, where we don't just tell you what happened, we break down why it matters and what it means for the future of democracy.